Hey guys, welcome back to my trailer and synopsis breakdown for Monsters, the 15th episode of the second season of The Gifted. Now on this video, and besides talking breakdowns, I'll be discussing theories and predictions, discussing the ratings, renewal, and the latest interviews with the EP of the series. But before we get into any of that, first and foremost, let's check out the trailer of the penultimate episode of the season.
She shouldn't have been down there! You're telling me that everything Reva said was a lie?
We can stop her. Such a shame we have to kill them.
Alright, so things are heating up, and by next week we're going to be 1 week away from the culmination of the season, possibly the series as well, but hopefully though it is just the season. Now I'm expecting a major cliffhanger at the end of the season as well, but I do hope they give us some kind of closure just in case the series does not make it back to air. That being said though, and to better understand the trailer, let's go through a quick read of the synopsis of the episode. So to get started, the header reads, Thunderbird hits rock bottom on an all-new The Gifted, Tuesday, February 19th on Fox. On the other hand, the body of the synopsis gives us a lot more detail. Lauren can't access her powers when it matters most, leaving Caitlin to take matters into her own hands when they are being pursued. Reva finally reveals her plan for the inner circle, and it is darker than anyone could have imagined. Meanwhile, Jace confronts some regrets about his actions and is torn between Precious from the Purifiers and his own beliefs in the all-new Monsters episode of The Gifted, airing Tuesday, February 19th on Fox. So to speak breakdown is to speak number 1, the very first scene on the trailer is about Thunderbird heading for that rock bottom mentioned on the synopsis. I mean, he's pissed off, he's angry, and he just saw Clarice die, or that is at least what he thinks over there. Now it does seem pretty obvious that he's gonna be taking it out on Urg, blaming Urg for all of it, what happened to Clarice over there. But Urg, on the other hand, who's just lost a lot of his people on this week's episode, most if not all of his fighters to be precise, he's probably and finally gonna have to give up and give in and join in with the underground. But off topic though, I completely missed this bit on my review, but considering Clarice was killed holding a portal wide open, that was most probably an Easter egg to her dying in the comics as a result of being caught in her very own teleportation field. But number 2, next up on the trailer, we do see Reva in a very quick scene, one better explained out of the synopsis. So I'm assuming over here that this scene with everyone sitting at the table, it's all about the big reveal of what her plans are for the inner circle. Now the synopsis does indicate that these plans are darker than anyone could have imagined. I think it all depends on who anyone is. Does it just refer to the characters within the series, or also to the audience, us, the people viewing the series? From a viewer perspective, I think we all know that she was planning to take out core government entities and officials. That was actually made clear a couple of episodes back. That was really the big mission of her 3 new trainees. We know as well that she's planning to start this all-new mutant nation, one where Lorna plays a major role. You know, being royalty and all, as she did refer to her a couple of episodes ago. Now when you think about it, there's nothing really horrible about the mutant nation idea. The only horrible thing is taking out all those organizations, all those people, in order to advance that objective. But if whatever she reveals on the upcoming episode is even more horrifying than that, the only thing I could think about is absolute and utter genocide. So basically we're talking her willingness to annihilate the human race, or her willingness to annihilate any mutants who oppose her. I think the big shock on the upcoming episode is going to be to her people and not to the audience really. Do let me know in the comments what you think of that one though. But up next is number 3, we have this conversation between Andy and Lorna. Lorna seems to have come clean to Andy, telling him everything she knows about Reva and her plans, probably about Benedict Ryan and the league they have together as well. Andy on one hand seems to be in shock given the news that Lorna just laid upon him, and Lorna on the other hand is promising that they can stop Reva. Now I have got a theory about Andy's reaction that might be all out there, and baseless really. I mean, there's only one incident to prove it, but weak evidence or not, 10 pieces of evidence or 1 piece of evidence, baseless or not, I'm gonna be discussing it in a moment here anyway. But next up is number 4, such a shame we have to kill them. Now these are the final words of Reva on this trailer, and I assume that if this trailer is in actual chronological order, then she's talking about the entire underground, Andy and Lorna included. But next up though is number 5, everyone seems to be reunited by the end of this trailer. Andy and his family, Lorna and Marcos, and they are all ready to face off with Reva and the inner circle. But this, however, though, also brings me to the question of Andy and the theory I have about him. Is Andy going to follow Lorna back into the arms of the underground, or is he possibly playing both her and now them for the benefit of the Inner Circle and Reva page? Now, one thing about Andy that I did not dig deep into on my review of the 14th episode is his reaction to the death of Sage at the hands of Reva. I mean, the kid was completely indifferent, like it was something normal, like he was absolutely fine with it. This kind of reaction actually tempts me to think beyond the obvious, him simply joining up with the underground. So to me, in my books, it makes a lot more sense that Andy is so far gone, and that Reva would try to install a spy of her own, kinda return the favor. That spy would be amidst the underground, and he would be Andy. As I mentioned earlier, this could be absolutely baseless and out of the realm of reality, but I just thought it was worth noting. Let's keep in mind as well that this moment at the very end of the trailer feels like a promotional video, like something you'd use to promote the series, something that's quite suited for an official webpage or even a poster. They're basically all the main characters on the series, I mean except for Blink, but Blink supposedly just died. She didn't really, gonna talk about that in a moment, but everyone except for Blink is there on that scene. Everyone looks surprised, everyone looks worried, yet they're all looking in different directions. So for a scene that looks like it came out of some kind of photo shoot, it could pretty much be a total misdirect, like these guys are not gonna be reuniting on next week's episode. But next up is number 6. Jace confronts some regrets about his actions and is torn between pressures from the Purifiers and his own beliefs. Now that's the part of the synopsis that talks about Jace, and I think that was quite obvious on the 14th episode. First, he had his doubts when Benedict Ryan gave him the order to clear the Morlocks, clear here being his way of giving a kill order. But Turner, however, does end up complying. I mean, he's being tempted by the shiny, the power he's promised, the ability to avenge Grace in so many ways, and to bring about the change that he believes is necessary, the change that he believes is for the better. Later on, though, and after the dust settles, after his attack on the Morlocks is quite successful, he does seem to realize at that very last moment, holding that little toy bear, that he's been under the influence of what he thinks is revenge for Grace, and that he's simply been played. The Morlocks might be a separatist group, but a group that is trying to lead life in peace, life away from everyone else. They're a group living in partial fear, with parents trying to raise their kids the age of Grace when she died. Jace on the 14th episode has hit an all-time low in terms of how far he's willing to go, but it was also what he needed to realize he's on the wrong path here. That is exactly what we are going to see on the penultimate episode of the season, the struggle within Jace in order to get to the point that he changes his attitude towards mutants. Not completely, maybe he's still going to hate them, but nonetheless he's not going to be all bloody about it. But as far as the synopsis and trailer goes, here's our final point, and number 7, Lauren can't access her powers when it matters most, leaving Caitlin to take matters into her own hands when they are being pursued. Now, I'm not going to discuss this part of the synopsis in too much detail because obviously it is about the continuation of the events of the 14th episode when it comes to the cops chasing Caitlin, Lauren, and those few Morlock family members they aim at protecting. But moving on to speaking some predictions, this is not really my final list. Gonna be talking more about this on next week's video, trailer breakdown that is. I'm gonna have more predictions at that point, given it's gonna be right before the finale. However though, here it goes. 1, I think Andy is gonna sell Lorna out to Reva, possibly ending up being her spy amidst the underground. 2, well, I think that Andy is gonna be faking his quitting of the Inner Circle. I don't think Esme is gonna be faking it. I think Esme is gonna be quitting the Inner Circle and moving back to the underground. With every single passing episode, Esme seems more and more uncomfortable with her current situation. So I think she's gonna realize that she is better off not being with the Inner Circle. She's better than being with the Inner Circle. But when it comes to Jace, there is 3. Jace is gonna struggle a little bit, possibly go for 1 or 2 acts of Purifier stupidity before his conscience is fully awakened to realize that he cannot continue to be the man that the Purifiers made out of him. But moving on to 4, Lauren and Reid are going to go through with not using the serum, and we are most probably going to see one big Fenris moment before the season ends. Now this Fenris moment might happen between Lauren and Andy, depending on whether or not I'm right on my first prediction. So if I'm right, I think they're going to discover by the end of the season that Reid could be the second half of Fenris. But finally though, there is 5, Blink is going to be back before the season is over. Now this one isn't really a prediction as much as it is knowledge based on something that Matt Nix, the executive producer of the series, said during a special screening of episode 14. He stated then, and I believe this special screening was last Friday, that she has fallen or disappeared, blinked that is, into the vortex of portals at the very end. Personally, I believe that she's gonna be back alive, maybe not so well, but definitely alive. But anyway, moving on to my final two topics on this video, and both of them are kind of related because part of what Matt Nix said in that interview that I did speak about at the beginning of this video is all about the renewal for a third season. Now I do not remember when exactly, but around a year ago I did upload a video about how renewal and cancellation decisions are being made within networks on the basic level and in general. Back then, I talked about how different networks have different standards in evaluating a renewal or cancellation decision, yet there are certain rules that are kinda common to all networks. I talked about how the balance tips in the favor of a show that is owned by the network versus one that is not owned by the network but airing on it. I also talked about how it tips in favor of a show airing on Friday over shows that air on weekdays. These kind of statements of course assume that the shows are performing at the same level, those the balance tips in favor of and those it doesn't. Now when it comes to Fox this season, every single series on the network except for Gotham and Lethal Weapon is actually owned by Fox, which means that they are all moving to Disney because that is the deal really, except of course for the same two, Gotham and Lethal Weapon. In a normal scenario, it would mean that all of these series have got a greater chance of renewal at worse ratings than the cases with the two unowned series. In a normal scenario as well, The Gifted would still have quite the low ratings to get renewed. The 14th episode of this season scored 8.5 in the 18 to 49 demographic, down from 8.88 for the season premiere, which unfortunately was already down by 40.65% from the finale of the first season. On the other hand, and in terms of total viewers, the latest episode was viewed by a total of 1.6 million viewers, down from 2.6 million for the season premiere, which once again was already way lower than the viewership for the series premiere, 47.3% lower. So there is in fact a huge drop in viewership over here. My favorite website, by the way, in the determination of whether or not a series is to be renewed is TV by the Numbers. You will find me sharing a link in the pinned comment to this video to the website. Now the website does not just provide numbers but also predictions, and they're spot on more than 90% of the time, actually more like 95 to 97% of the time. They call themselves the Cancel Bear. They use a scale of 1 to 5 bears, with 5 being a sure bet for renewal and 1 bear being a sure bet for cancellation. Now The Gifted has been scoring 2 bears for the past few weeks. 2 bears makes it more likely to get cancelled than to get renewed, which really translates into, by historical network standards, Fox standards that is, it is performing below average. Yet it has got the slight chance to get renewed based on historical averages, situations like this one, in which a rare case happened and one of these series had this kind of ratings and ended up getting renewals. But on that note though, allow me to share what Matt Nix, the EP to the series, stated as of recently about his own opinion and thoughts on the renewal of The Gifted for a Season 3. He kind of made it abundantly clear that he's not seeing the series renewed on Fox, but possibly and instead on a streaming service. You do need to remember here that last year Lucifer did suffer the same fate on both fronts, meaning it got cancelled on Fox and got picked up by Netflix. But on one final note, there are 2 things worth mentioning over here about Matt Nix in his interview and The Gifted Season 3 and everything that's been happening so far on The Gifted. So number 1, Nix did state that if they do get a 3rd season, they're going to be doing something that's inspired heavily by Days of Future Past. And number 2, I think I got out of this interview an explanation for all the numbers that we get to see on the episodes, the very numbers that we end up translating into comic book issues. So let's put it this way, he stated that they don't have the luxury of pointing at an arc and going, okay, let's do this one. So they are basically inspired by the comics, and hence all the numbers that we see, ending up realizing that the episode has been inspired by a certain issue or a couple of issues, but they couldn't still go and say, okay, let's do this issue or this arc, because they're not really working with the same set of characters, sometimes not even similar characters. But that being said though, I don't want to prolong this video anymore, so I'm just gonna say, like it, subscribe to it, and enable notifications for my future videos, community posts and live streams, And don't forget to let me know in the comments what you think is going to be happening on the upcoming episode and on the finale of the season. But until you tune in for another one of my videos, gifted or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to this trailer breakdown, and have a great day.